When drawing a hand, it is best to, one, have a reference, and it could literally be your own hand, or you can look at a photo. It is best to break it down into shapes because it just makes it easier to understand the form of the hand. So what I always like to do to start is I make a very lightly colored box, and then I have to decide on where the fingers are going to be. So 1 finger, 2, 3, and 4, and the thumb comes off the side of that palm. This is going to be the palm of the hand. And then you can break it up into some different directions. So a hand will have a bump for where it's connected to the thumb. It's gonna have a bump every place where a knuckle is going to connect. And then we have a little bit of a bump here. So what I like to do when drawing a hand is create those bumps by having a circle there, having a little bit of a circle there, and then each of those knuckles will each have a circle. And the reason why we make these is because since these bump outwards, then those are going to be lighter than the inside where it starts to cave inwards. It becomes a shadow on your hand. And then going for the thumb and the fingers. Now the thumb is only 2 joints. So you're going to make first a square that's coming off that side there, or a rectangle. And then you make the top of the thumb, which I feel like is kind of like a tall gumdrop. So tall gumdrop, that would be your thumb. And then for each of those fingers, we have 3 joints. We have 1 rectangle here, 2 rectangles here, and then we have a tall gumdrop at the top. So we have 1 rectangle, 2 rectangle, and 1 gumdrop. And each of these is a joint in itself. So sometimes I like to make the circle where the joint is, so that way when I'm drawing this, it always bumps over that joint just a tiny bit, and it's a little bit skinnier in between each part of the joints. And then of course you have the actual palm itself, and then you make the next one. So 1, 2, and your middle finger is a little bit taller than your pointer finger, so you can make sure you make that up there. Make this a little bit taller. And then your ring finger is a little bit shorter than your pointer finger. And then your pinky kind of sits off to the side just a little bit. It kind of angles outward. And it's gonna be the smallest finger. So that kind of shows you like the different shapes of the hand, and then you can kind of smooth it out. It will kind of bump over that joint and then kind of curve. So bump over that joint and then curve. So we're gonna get rid of that little square-ish spot there. And then on here, it kind of dips inward, and then it goes over to the thumb. That's a little bit boxy. You can leave these as the little joints. And then you are connecting it kind of in a soft V in between each finger. Soft V. And then there's your hand. And then you can start shading in between. I like to just lightly sketch over wherever it connects to the parts that bump outwards. And then I use my handy dandy blendy stum to blend that inwards. I blend the outside a little bit. And it creates a pretty easy to read hand versus a lot of times we make the mitten and it's hard to tell that that's a hand. If you want to put in the wrist, so we have our wrist, it kind of slopes inward, but then we also have this little ball joint at the edge of our wrist. So I like to put that in there, and then it curves around that, and then it slowly tapers outward until you get to like your forearm and such. And then we also have like these joints and these veins here. So I like to make the 2 lines going down for the joint, and then it kind of creases at where your wrist is reaching your hand. So I put those in there as well, and a little bit of shading. And then once again, you're blending stuff. And it looks like a hand. You can also use your kneaded eraser to get rid of any harsh lines that you don't want, or any like sketchy lines that are just a little bit too dark to make it look like a hand. I'm literally just tapping it in order to get that little bit of lightness at the center of each of those fingers. And then I'm going to kind of soften up that shadow there too. And it looks like a hand.